couple students that were struggling in some of their courses. And the conversation really turned to a strategy that could be applied in order to help these students excel. And I was just so struck in a good way by that so much time and commitment was being put into an individual plan for someone who was not doing well, because the goal is for everyone to do well. And so that was the first thing that really kind of made me just think about how special the Prehealth team here is. There is an abundance of tutoring resources here through an area that was formerly referred to as Cornerstone, but the ability to have tutors both in your dorm, tutors with other students, tutors in all courses. I really recommend that all students, when they come here, take advantage of the tutoring resources early, because it really gives you kind of a early lay of the land of what your courses are going to be like and how difficult they may be. It's a very collaborative environment. The campus here is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. The student housing has been voted among the top in the country in the past. It's just unbelievable. And then we have unique programs that link our undergraduates with the medical campus. Like I said, at the Learning Center, formerly called Cornerstone, there's appointment-based academic mentors, peer-led team learning, help desks available for specific topics and subjects, and then we have residential peer mentors actually in the dorms themselves. The Career Center and the Office of Undergraduate Research are two centers that students definitely take advantage of here. The Career Center offers things such as practice interviews for medical school. There are advisors there that will help students figure out what they would like to do for the summer in terms of internships and other kind of activities. The Office of Undergraduate Research helps link our students with research both here on the Danforth campus and on the medical campus. Again, the Prehealth Advising team, they meet on a regular basis, and students will have a 4-year advisor, and then they have access actually to a Prehealth advisor at any point, but they'll have a dedicated Prehealth advisor when they move into their junior year. The advising is regular, it's personalized, and what's really nice about it is as a student moves into the application phase when they're considering medical school, the advisors actually work on application strategy as well. And the key piece of advice is to make sure that you stay in touch with your advisors so they know that you know the timeline of what you need to be doing, and to make sure that your application is as strong and robust as it can be. The advisors are very accessible. There is something called the Dean of the Day, where if a student has a quick question, they can actually just kind of pop in and ask a question without having to make an appointment that could be weeks away. But it's really true mentoring along the way. As far as actual application support, students receive detailed pre-health information. We have a dedicated pre-health website that really covers everything that the student needs to know about the application and admissions process for medical school. The pre-health deans and advisors meet on a very regular basis. There's something called the Pre-Health Application Institutional Review, the PIR. What this is a set of 15 essay questions that basically ask the student to take a self-inventory of the reasons why they want to pursue medicine as a career, what kind of qualities and challenges they have and challenges they've had along the way. And the thing that's really nice about this is these questions really give the student a chance to kind of formulate in their mind why medicine's the right career for them. And it helps in two ways, I think. One is it prepares them for the secondary applications that they're going to receive when they apply to medical school. Some schools have large secondary applications with several essay questions to ask that they ask, and others have smaller secondary applications. But most medical schools will send a secondary application in addition to the universal application. And so when a student has already completed this PIR, they will already have formulated the answers to many of these questions. And this PIR is actually reviewed with their advisor, with their pre-health advisor, along with their list of activities, their transcript, their personal statement for medical school. All of this is reviewed with the pre-health advisor, so it's very uniform and complete. We also have a writing center here where students can take a draft of their personal statement for their application and have that looked over by a graduate student in writing. And so the thought is that you come in with the idea that's formed and a good solid draft of that, and they will help fine-tune this. And then we actually have our own WashU MCAT review course, which has been very highly received. So talking a little bit about the competitiveness of med school, this is the latest information that was released by the AAMC. In this last application cycle, there were about 900,000 applications that were filed across the country. That was among about 53,000 applicants. So this basically, when students ask how many applications should I put out there, on average, a student right now is putting out about 17 applications per applicant. And this has been pretty consistent over the past few years. It's gone up a little bit. 5 years ago, I think it was around 15 applications per applicant, but it's been pretty consistent. This past year, there were 21,869 applicants that actually matriculated to medical school. So when you look at that, it basically comes down to a 41% acceptance rate across the country. So medical school is very competitive. We are really at really the apex of competitiveness when we look at the data over the past 30 plus years. If you see here this bottom middle bar, the blue bar, is really the trend that has gone all the way from the 80s all the way to where we are now. And so you can see that there was this peak that occurred right around, let's see about my cursor if you can see this. I was lucky in that I applied right around here. But you can see that the peak went up and then down, and now we're right here. And so we're really at the peak of the number of people that are applying to medical school. Looking at some of the statistics, the average or the mean science GPA across the country is about a 3.66 with a total of about 3.73. And that's also been very consistent over the past many years. The mean total MCAT is somewhere around the 83rd percentile. So that will give you an idea of those that actually matriculate. That's really the national average on the MCAT exam. There is one thing that I talk about that I refer to as the reputation bump. What this refers to, I often get questions about, well, if I come to Washington University and the curriculum is more rigorous, do medical schools take that into account? Well, the thing about some place like Washington University is that other medical schools know that students come out incredibly well prepared, and they really have a high degree of respect for the curriculum that the students go through. And so some data was collected, and essentially what this is looking at is two metrics: the MCAT level and the science GPA, the biology, chemistry, physics, and math GPA for first-time applicants between this 5-year period, 2014 to 2018. This does not include our engineering students or our business students. This is basically arts and science students, which are the majority of our applicants. But this was compiled by one of our pre-health deans. And if you look at this, what you can see is that if you look at just these two metrics, if a person who graduates, and what this is saying is that what percentage of our students were accepted to at least one medical school. So if a student had an MCAT between an 83rd and 87th percentile with a GPA somewhere in the 3.8 to 4.0 range, they had a 95% chance of acceptance to at least one medical school. Now, if you bring the GPA down from a 3.6 to a 3.79 with still an average MCAT score, 93% of our students are still getting accepted to medical school. We can go down even further. If you have a 3.4 to 3.59 GPA, 71%, even with an average MCAT, are being accepted. And then if you even go down to a B average with an average MCAT score, half of our students are getting accepted to at least one medical school. So that's what I refer to as a reputation bump, and hopefully that answers that question that students have. Part two, what should high school students be thinking about when it comes to college? I would say, first of all, think about why you're considering medicine. These are usually the most common reasons what students will say. They want to help people. They have an interest in science. They like continued learning. They like a constant challenge. Many have had a personal experience in the healthcare field, either with themselves as a patient or a family member, that really has inspired them. And then a secure lifestyle. That's hopefully the income is, I always tell students, should be the least of the reasons why you do this, because there are other ways you can make a great income, but that's also part of it as well. So then the question is, what do medical schools want? Well, essentially, we want the same things. We want students who have a desire to help others, who have an interest in science, who have a thirst for knowledge and desire a challenge. We really do want responsible and detail-oriented students and those with unique talents and abilities. So that's something that I always tell students is we want to know about those things that make you you. If you play an instrument, if you're involved in sports, if you have some passion with regard to your extracurricular activities, if you like to write or paint, we want to know about those things. It's that uniqueness among each of the individual students that really makes a diverse class. And it really makes it fun when you come to school and you have all these other students that have all these other interests, because you pick up a lot of these interests. You develop new interests and talents. And so it's really a great thing, both in college and in medical school. General advice to students when they're starting college is when you're visiting colleges, try to envision yourself at each school you visit. Getting a really good gestalt about whether or not that school is right for you is, I think, the most crucial thing. Because if you enjoy being where you are and you like the people that you're studying with and you're interacting with on a daily basis, you're going to do well there. And so I think that's the key thing is the student should visualize, is this the right place for me? What things also does that school offer that will allow you to thrive? The abundance of activities that we have here for the students with regard to not just academic pursuits, but other extracurricular pursuits really make this a fun place to really develop yourself and to take on new hobbies and interests. So I think that's really, really important. And then really finding that place that's going to challenge you. You want to go to a place that's going to have you, push yourself and really see how you can develop as a person. Other advice that I give is to take it slow in the beginning. Probably the biggest challenge our students have when they start school here is there are so many opportunities available to them that it's pretty easy to get overextended in that first semester of college. So the recommendation I give is try not to engage in more than one really significant extracurricular activity that consumes your time. If you want to get involved in a few things, that's fine, but some of them can be very time consuming. If you're a student athlete, for example, that can be really taxing both on your energy and your time. So you want to make sure you take it slow in the beginning. Use that first semester to get your feet wet, get a feeling of how difficult your coursework is, your exams. Don't overextend yourself. The other thing is take advantage of all your resources. The tutoring resources here, I think students should take advantage of before they need them. You learn a lot from your peer tutors because they've been through the courses already, and they can give you tips on what they did to learn difficult concepts. That's really key. Knowing your advisors and staying connected to your advisors is really, really important. You need to stay on a timeline, but if you have a plan from the beginning, it's not very stressful or difficult. You just take things step by step, and you build your resume over a period of 3 to 4 years. And so if you start out well, know your advisors, take it slow, it really is a straightforward process. And then there's a course that I developed back in 2005 that is now kind of one of the courses that I would say about 94% of all the pre-health students take, and it's called Med Prep, and I'll talk a little bit about that. What's special about our School of Medicine? I could go on forever about this. Our School of Medicine is really special. It receives among the largest amount of grant funding for research in the U.S. We have faculty here that are not just nationally known, but internationally known. We have the largest MD PhD program, what's referred to as the Medical Scientist Training Program, the MSTP, in the nation. And our medical center is absolutely beautiful. It's very large. It's on the other side of Forest Park. So if you visit St. Louis and you'll see the Danforth campus, the main campus of Washington University. There's a park between the largest inner city park in the country, between the Danforth campus and the medical campus. It's absolutely beautiful. This is really a center of learning. We have over 1,400 students in all different areas that are on our medical campus. A total of over 600 MD, PhD, and master's degree students. And we also have students in all various areas of health sciences. It's also a very large center for postgraduate resident training. Virtually every specialty that you can think of is represented here at WashU University. We have a really exciting gateway curriculum. It's called the Gateway Curriculum that's starting this fall. It's a new integrated curriculum that is going to give students an earlier exposure to clinical medicine. It's going to integrate the basic sciences and the clinical sciences in a way that's really fresh and exciting. Everyone here is really, really excited about this new curriculum. And part of this is that our medical students are actually going to have a coach that is going to work with them throughout their time here, that will be someone that they can meet and kind of have benchmarks of progress as they go along. And that's going to be something that is really innovative and new that we're all looking forward to. Our Office of Student Affairs offers numerous programs in student wellness and other areas. One thing that I thought was really unique here is that if a student had an idea of a student group that didn't exist, it was actually pretty easy to get it started with support from Student Affairs. One example is that we actually have a full 3-hour musical that the students put on every year, a full musical with an orchestra and everything. And this was an idea of one student who went to our deans and asked about doing this, and it's supported by the medical school, and it's been a tradition for years. Students really develop mentoring relationships here with both clinical and research faculty. I would say that during my time when I was a course master for the first and third year med students, I probably knew about 70% of the entire medical school student body by name because I worked with every one of them. And I think that the faculty here, they really love the personal interaction that they have with our students. Washington University has always been a huge innovator and medical and scientific leader. We're a world center for the study of Alzheimer's disease. We created the first PET scanner, all these different firsts here. One thing that I like to boast about a little bit, because I'm in the field of emergency medicine, is that Barnes Jewish Hospital, our main teaching hospital for Washington University, has among the fastest stroke treatment times of any hospital in the world. In 2016, at one of the stroke conferences, we were listed as the third fastest, first in the United States, third in the world behind Helsinki, Finland, and Erlanger, Germany. And so we have this wonderful collaboration with the Department of Neurology, and this is just kind of an example of some of the programs of excellence that we have here. These are just a few pictures of our medical campus. Like I said, it's separated between from the Danforth campus by Forest Park. It's a very large campus. This is the North Campus, where we have our Cancer Center and our Institute for Public Health. This is a picture of our white coat ceremony that occurs in the first month of medical school, where the student class basically writes their own student oath that reflects the values of their class. And so what special programs exist here at Washington University for the pre-medical students? Well, one thing that is really interesting is we have a big emphasis on student innovation and entrepreneurship. There have actually been several companies that have been formed through the interaction of our students with our medical campus. And one example is something called Sling Health. Two of our students, the one on the left here, Steve Linderman, was one of our MD PhD students. And he basically, him and another student, formed a company. Eventually became a company, but it started out as a way for our students on the Danforth campus, particularly in engineering, to actually come to the medical campus and help figure out solutions to clinical problems. And it became such an innovative component of our interaction with our students that it thrived, and it's branched off, and it's become a very large organization now. We also have something called ePharmix, which was also started by one of our MSTP students. This is basically the use of text-based messaging to address chronic clinical problems. And I remember specifically when the founder of this came to me to ask what clinical problems would be applicable to emergency medicine. And now there are some situations in which ePharmix uses this. For example, with diabetes and also renal failure. And so these are examples of how our students are leading at the top here. So the MedPrep program, I encourage students to take this mainly because this is a program that I designed in 2005 because I thought, there should be something that should be available to students where between the ages of 18 and say 23, we have so many people that are going into medicine, but they really don't have a real firm idea of what it is that we do. So I thought it would be nice to have a course to answer all the questions that a student of that age range could have about not just the pathway, but everything, the examination process along the way, all the different steps, the different components that go into a medical career, and then also the application and admissions process as well. So this is really kind of a foundational course. It's very laid back. It's a lecture series. There's no homework or exams, but students take this early, usually in their first or second year. So really, it's about becoming a doctor, and it really, I think, helps keep students on track, helps motivate them. There's two different courses, the lecture series and then the shadowing experience. The lecture series, so we go through, we talk about how students create a 4-year plan, and this is all in conjunction with the Prehealth team. So everything that we talk about in here is actually the same exact information that the Prehealth deans will be giving the students. It dispels commonly held medical myths that a lot of students come in with. We cover the entire educational path. We prepare them for the expectations that will be required of them as a medical student, and really help them understand both the timeline and those things that are important in the medical school application. So the key is really to give them a roadmap for being the most competitive applicant to medical school when that time comes. The MedPrep 2 course is a shadowing course at Barnes-Jewish Hospital. We have 75 students a semester that come into our trauma center, and they will shadow either a medical student or a resident for 4 hours every other week. What's nice about this is we have a system set up where they can choose the day of the week and the time window and even the location within the emergency department. So if a student, for example, does not like trauma, they don't have to shadow in trauma. But I really encourage them to explore all aspects of the ED. It is in some ways a very intense course. Students are actually brought into the rooms during cardiac arrests, during level 1 traumas. And the thing that I find really unique about this is the patients absolutely love having the students on board. They view them as part of the medical team. As a matter of fact, I've found that sometimes our students get trapped in a room because the patient wants to know more about what their plans are in life and why they chose to become a physician. It's just a really positive, encouraging experience for the students. With that, we have a class 1 day a week for an hour where we have students debrief on their experiences. because I want to make sure if students have witnessed something that's traumatic, I want them to be able to talk about it and also learn how it is that we decompress as physicians. It's kind of learning that early on. So this is a very, very popular course here as well. So that is that's it. So I left time here for about 10 minutes of questions, and I'm happy to answer anything they have.
Awesome. Thank you for that amazing presentation. So it does look like we do have some questions coming in the chat. Again, thank you. But we are going to, as Dr. Polites, pivot to answer questions. Please put your questions in the Q&A box when you find, which you can find at the bottom of your screens. We are also joined by other admissions officers who will be typing answers as well if we are unable to get to your question in person. Don't forget that we are also going to have admission staff on hand at the end of the day as well. So kind of pivoting, first question we have is, do students need to study specific majors to be competitive for medical school? For example, is it possible for someone to be an engineer and complete a pre-med course as a pre-med?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So most students across the country who go to medical school are usually a STEM major. So either a science, math, or engineering. That is very common. Engineering students, it's actually kind of a very natural pathway in a lot of ways. We have many biomedical engineers who apply. And one thing that I kind of put in the category of medical myths is that even though most students do major in a science, we also have non-traditional students who don't major in science. I've interviewed, and we have students in our medical school who have had backgrounds where their major was in history or political science. I even interviewed an opera major once. And that's also part of what makes a medical school really interesting, is to have non-traditional majors. And the reason why you can do that is because all students take the same prerequisite courses. And the curriculum in medical school is designed in a way that you will be up to speed with where you need to be once you get through the first two phases of med school. So you may start out feeling like you have a little bit of an advantage early on if you were taking science courses, but you're brought up to speed where you need to be. So what I recommend is do what you love, do what you're passionate about, and the rest will take care of itself.
Awesome. Thank you for that great question, by the way. Does the WashU School of Medicine prefer WashU undergraduate students? And then do you have a sense of how many med school students did their undergraduate work at?
So it varies depending on the year. The largest number of students that we do accept are from our own university because we know of the preparation that they get. They get an outstanding 4 years of education. The numbers, they change from year to year. I've seen as many as 20 students in a class of 124 students. Our current class is going to be around 100 as we move into this new curriculum. So it'll be seen. Well, remains to be seen how many we'll have this next class, but it usually is our largest number of students.
Awesome. What makes a prospective student stand out in their med school application?
I would say demonstrating that you're passionate about taking care of people and or if you have an interest in research as well. It really is, we're looking for students who are passionate, who want to add to the diversity of a student body, who are really going to kind of, make a class, contribute something to a class that's going to make the class interesting and unique. And so that's what I would say is, whatever you're passionate about, speak about that in your application. Take the time to really talk about what it is that excites you within medicine.
Kind of in a similar kind of vein, do you recommend that students take a gap year before applying to medical school?
So it really depends on the student. Nationwide, about 50% of students now take a gap year, and that's also been the numbers here at Washington University as well. When I was applying to medical school, it wasn't that common. But there are a lot of things in the gap year that you can do And I think sometimes having a year to explore something before you come back in to the academic world is a good idea. The advice that I do give applicants is, number one, I think you should stay connected to medicine in some way. It's to show that you've got this continued interest in medicine, especially if you're not applying before your gap year, and use your application to really strengthen your skill set. That's going to make you a stronger person when you come out of that gap year.
Awesome. And then in kind of the next question is in reference to the med prep course. And so when do students take it, and is it selective to get into?
Mm-hmm. So no, it's not based on selectivity. The Med Prep 1, most students take that in their first or second year. Med Prep 2 is usually in the junior to senior year. And it's not based on a student's GPA. There's really no application process. Med Prep 2 is pretty competitive because the students want that real-world shadowing experience. So the course is open first on the first day of registration, Med Prep 2, to seniors first, and then juniors on day 2. But no, there's room, and we have a course limit, I think, of 300 students for Med Prep 1 per semester.
Wow, I actually didn't realize it was that big. So yeah. That's good to know. What opportunities are available for students who are interested in an MD/PhD program? Are these programs fully funded at the WashU School of Medicine?
Yes, so MSTP, and we call it the Medical Scientist Training Program because its funding is primarily through the NIH, but the MSTP students actually do their tuition is covered. They also have an annual stipend. So what really kind of defines a really strong MSTP applicant is someone who's demonstrated a capacity and passion for research during their undergraduate years. So someone, for example, who explores research and maybe does a summer of research wouldn't be necessarily competitive for an MD PhD program. They would want to see someone who's doing research longitudinally over time. So over a period of 1 to 2 years or more. It's not necessary. One myth is that you have to have publications coming out of it. That's not true either. But those who go into the MSTP program see research as a major part of their future career within medicine.
Awesome. The next question kind of relates to our current climate. How has COVID-19 affected students' access to research and internship opportunities?
So things are progressing as time goes on, right? As we're learning more and more about COVID from March until now, we're following the recommendations that are put out by the CDC and the guidelines that are put out by our medical school leadership, determine when we feel that it's the appropriate time for people to come back both into research spaces and clinical spaces. So it's really been kind of a phased approach, and that's why it's important for everybody simply to pay attention to the guidelines that are coming out and follow those.
Great response, and very kind of impactful. And so what are the most important factors that you consider in medical school admissions?
I keep coming back to this, but I think it's just when I meet an applicant that is really excited about the future of medicine, that loves to work with people, that you can get a sense of a genuine, compassionate nature. That's what I see in our students here. And I think that's what really kind of defines you as a physician, is that you really love to take care of others, and you love to see the results of improving the quality of their life, or if you're in a critical care field, of saving a life. There's really nothing that I think is more rewarding than that. And we really try to pick up on that passion that we see from students. And then I try to visualize, can I see this student being a great fit for our students? I kind of usually end my interviews by thinking about, if I were a student right now here, would I love to have this student alongside me? and go through this whole training process together. So that's what I look for.
Awesome. Do medical schools consider what a student has minored in when reviewing applications?
Not so much. I mean, the major actually is not as important, I think, as students think. If you're majoring in something, I always say don't try to second guess what admissions committees want. That your whole future will be studying science, and so if you really want to explore something that you're not going to have a chance to do again, you can do that in college. Getting a double major for the sake of just getting a double major, for example, I don't think is necessary. If it's something you can do because you want to do it and there's overlap enough that it's not too taxing on you, I think that's fine. But I know one of the advice that our executive director of our MSTP program will say is that sometimes if you're overtaxing yourself because you want to get a double major, for example, it can actually pull time that you could devote to your research endeavors while you're an undergrad. So the key is don't overthink the process. We take a holistic view on admissions. We look at the entire application and the entire range of experiences that this person has been involved with, and that's what really helps us make the decision. One small thing, there is no one key that really is that makes the ultimate difference. It's a composite of who that person is.
All great tips. Very, very good advice. And so the next question is kind of related to, you mentioned kind of research. What are some unique internship and research opportunities that WashU offers for undergraduate students?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. I know students that have been in various neuroscience labs, that have been involved in genetic labs, a lot of clinical research, students that have been involved in clinical research studies, even within our department. There's so many available. It's amazing. The opportunities are endless.
And then when do you kind of, in your advice, recommend that students begin research as an undergrad?
So I would say take the first year slow. I would recommend, personally, my recommendation, this is not speaking on the other advising deans, but I would not engage in research in at least the first semester, and maybe even wait until your first summer before you do it, only for the fact that you don't overload yourself. It's really important that when you commit to something that you stay committed. And so you don't want to dive into something before you really know what the other challenges are going to be in terms of your time schedule. So I think waiting at least until midway through your first year, if not to that first summer, is probably a way to go. There's no reason to take it much faster than that because you have a lot of other things on your plate.
Great advice. And then this will probably be our last question. In your opinion, what makes the WashU School of Medicine distinct from other med schools?
I think it's the people, the people, my colleagues, the students. It's just a fun place to be. It's I know it sounds really kind of silly, but it's a really fun environment. You have so many outstanding people in their field that allows, it really incentivizes you to be the best that you can be in whatever it is that you do. And so I think that there's this kind of infectious nature here with regard to learning, with regard to patient care, with regard to research, all of that it's just a really, really enjoyable place to be. And that's why I don't see myself being anywhere else. I've been here for so long. I can't imagine being more excited than being in a place like this. And I think that's what the students pick up too. When our applicants come here, they get that sense. I always say the best ambassadors for our school are our students, both for college and medical school, because you'll see the excitement they have and how proud they are of their school.
Awesome. And with that, thank you for all of your questions, and thank you to Dr. Polites for joining us today.
Really enjoyed it.
It's
been a great rest of the day.
Yes, at this point, we would like to take a 5-minute break so that our current students can join us for the next panel. We'll get started at about 12:40. So take the next 5 minutes, walk around, stretch, get some water.